Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Jen Ryan, and I am a success coach, and I have the pleasure of introducing to you Shawn Henson. Shawn, I just got done reading your section of the book, and I was blown away by your story. So I want to just, first of all, take an opportunity and let you introduce yourself to our viewers today.
Okay, thank you, Jen. So I'm Shawn Henson. I'm a mom of 4 children, 1 adult child and 3 adopted children. I'm a clarity and foundation coach. And so basically I help people who are trying to gain traction in their business, to get more clarity, to build a solid foundation so that they can move forward in their business. So that's kind of what I do.
Awesome. Awesome. So there's just so much that I want to ask you because your story definitely moved me. And so I just want to ask you, this was a very personal story that you shared. And it left me with all kinds of questions, of course. And some of it we'll get into and some of it we'll save for another day because it was, it was so powerful. And you're such a strong individual, and you shared so much of your very personal story. And I want to talk about your personal story, but I also want to talk about how it relates to your business and how it changed. So why don't you just, for our viewers, because not everyone has read your story yet, why don't you, if you don't mind, just share a little bit about your story and about what I just read.
Okay. So my story is a snippet of kind of an ongoing challenge that I have. My adult daughter is mentally ill, and it didn't really come completely apparent to me how mentally ill she was until she started losing her children. She was a young mom. She was a teenager when older teenager, but she was almost 19 when she had her. And at about 2 years of age, her significant other broke her daughter's leg, and he went to prison for that. And but in that time, she was told to stay away from him. She was told to not have contact with him, and she continued contact, which basically was the demise of her having her children. She refused to let go of the relationship. She snuck around. She pretended that she wasn't seeing him and whatnot. And the courts got wind of it. And little by little, she started losing control of her children. And the first 2 were taken when my granddaughter was still 2. She went to foster care, and actually there was 2 children that she lost at that point. One, she was 2, and the other one was 6 months. And we actually had to hand deliver the little guy. We had him in court with us, and we had to drive him to the social service and relinquish custody. And that was very hard. My mom was caring for my 2-year-old granddaughter, and she had to drive her in, and she was just in tears. And it was it was a very difficult situation. And then she went on to plan a pregnancy during an open social service case with a significant other that she's not supposed to have any contact with. And so she had birthed her 3rd child. He was there at the birth. I was there, and what happened is the day when she was 1 day old, the authorities came in, and that's where the story starts. Basically, the book is that she was taken at the hospital. We were taking baby pictures. We knew that something was a little odd. We were a little bit nervous that she was going to get the baby taken because they released her, my daughter. And they said, oh, we're waiting for the doctors to do one more check on the baby. And so they didn't release them together. It was like, we're going to release you, and then your baby will be released. And while we were doing the pictures, the authorities busted in through the door, arrested him all in one swoop. It was like they arrested him. They rolled the baby out in the hallway, and she was gone. They had taken her. And so that's where my story begins. But it is a really personal story. And I think one of the things that I found so beneficial in doing this book collaboration and getting my story out there is it really forced me to write it all down, to really process that. I had tried to blog about it. I've had so many people say, you need to write about this. And, you should write a book or whatever. And I tried several years ago to blog about it. And just, I was doing pretty well with the kids and all that. Oh, by the way, I ended up subsequently adopting the children. This is all the short version, but basically we had, solidified our family and whatnot. But when I tried to write about it, it was just so painful. I had to relive this, this whole drama that went on for actually 2 years through the courts. I went to every court hearing. And it's just really kind of surreal how the authorities have control in this way over your life, that they actually can tell you, which rightfully they should, but they can actually tell you not to see somebody or not to have any contact with somebody, or take your children. So
was this because of the children, or was this because the hope was that she would get the children back? And
yeah. The way the courts work, at least in California, is there's a process, and they fast track it, meaning that within a couple years, they have to make a decision one way or another if the children are going to be returned to the parent. It might be 18 months, but anyway, returned to the parent, or if they're going to be adopted or given guardianship to somebody else. And so the hope was when my daughter, when my granddaughter's leg was broken, she's my daughter now, so it's a little, but when her leg was broken, they started this open case to investigate, was it malicious or not? Was it, was it on purpose, or was it an accident? And so there was a period of time where they were investigating, and then they gave both of them, and there's another father involved too, because there's three children, but 2 fathers, and they give all of the parents that have rights the chance to step up and see if they can actually parent the child. And one of the things that was really nerve-wracking was that one of the fathers is a really bad guy, but there wasn't a lot of overt, anything super overt showing that he was a bad guy. It was like, I knew he was a bad guy. I knew he was wrong to be a parent to these children, but he was in another state, and he actually showed up to the first hearing. He had never even met the little girl. And I was very fearful that somehow he would end up with this child in another state. And I knew who he was and what he was about, and I knew that it would not be a good thing. She would not be cared for. She would be in danger. So that was very difficult. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it was, yes, it was, the hope was that she would reunify. And actually, to her credit, she made every visit to visit the children. Even she was homeless. She walked there. They made the appointments really early, and I thought there's no way, because she's not an early riser. I thought there's no way she would make it. She would actually get herself up. She was camping, living under bushes, and she would clean herself up, and she would show up to her appointments every time that she had an opportunity to see the children. But the fact was that she was mentally ill. She wouldn't follow through with her mental health appointments to prove that she was mentally fit. She was afraid, I think, to what they would find. And she also kept contact and was sleeping under the bush with this guy that she was supposed to not be with. So that's kind of the story there.
So when all of this was going on, you were employed. You hadn't.
Yes. I was. I had an amazing job in the Bay Area. The job of my life. I was career mom. Most of my adult daughter's life, and she had left home, and I was a single career woman, and I was in a very lucrative, amazing position that I loved. Managing in a counseling center in the Bay Area when all this was going on. And so so I was doing these and by the way, the trek to each court appointment was about 5.5 hour drive one way. So it was pretty, and this went on for 2 years. So it was that, the story that's in the book is just a snippet,
Yeah, you could tell there was a lot, like I said, I had so many questions. I'm like, well, wait a minute.
Right.
You go from being this, and I think you said that you were in your early 40s when this happened.
It was mid 40s. Yeah. Like 46, I think, when it started.
And then all of a sudden you become a mother of 3.
Right. And that happened over a course of time, of course, but you asked how this affected my job now, and I don't think I fully answered that. So basically what happened is when I got custody of the children, I had them for about a year, all 3 of them. I had them for a year before I adopted them. And when it was 2 weeks prior to adopting them, I had quit my job to stay home and take care of them. They all three had special needs. They're a special needs adoption. And so I did that for a year, but I just knew that I could not give them what they needed working that job. So I gave up my job to stay home with them. And it was being an instant parent of 3 babies, and they all were in diapers. So it was just quite a shift, you know, and I was a stay-at-home mom, which I had never really been able to do with my first daughter. So I was fortunate that I was able to do that. I, you know, had set myself up so that I could retire. I was, you know, semi-retired or shortly for a short term to take care of them and give my full attention to them.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, like I said, for those who are watching, you really need to read this story. It's really something else, and you will be very touched and moved by it. So tell me, so you retire to take care of these babies and to be a full-time mom, but then shortly after, you decide to pick up and start your own business.
Yeah, it took a couple of years, actually. I stayed there in the Bay Area for 2 years with them, just parenting them, but I didn't have a lot of support. And so I had moved the kids, before I took off on my own business, I had moved the kids back to my hometown where I live now to be close to my family. And after about my youngest was 3 when I started doing my own coaching business. So I waited till she was 3. So for 3 years, I didn't do anything but just care for the kids. But I started feeling like she was starting to go to preschool, and so I started edging into it. And so it's kind of like a little hobby. Just it was really fun to get back in, you know, with professional people and doing adult things. So it was more of a hobby, I'd say, for about 1.5 years. But then in time, it really started to take hold, and I really realized that this is really my passion and what I want to do. So kind of went from hobby to what it is now.
And you have a 5-step process. How did you come up with that 5 steps?
Oh, okay. So it's part of my process, but I have a 5-step framework. Actually the process of reflecting on how I got through the ordeal of my grandchildren that now are my children, and how I've really managed to keep a balance in my life with having this mentally ill daughter. Is I looked at what was it that really helped me through all of this. And I realized that the very thing that was helping me in my own life was what I was doing with my clients. And so I was already kind of doing that naturally. But basically the 5 steps is the first one is faith. The second one is having support. Third one is self-care. Fourth is having healthy boundaries. And the fifth is really having the clarity to know what the next step is. And that was my mantra through this ordeal with the courts and whatnot. It was, what's the next step? So sometimes it was just as simple as getting up and taking a shower, you know? I mean, sometimes it was just that minute. And sometimes, like one point, I actually hired a private investigator, and I did my own investigation with this father that I knew was bad. And I found court papers that were showing that he actually neglected his first son that nobody knew about. I found that through interviewing friends and family. And so I just took the next right step, the next thing I needed to do to handle the situation or whatever. And so I incorporate that with my clients is I provide that framework. And so that's something that I solidified it, and I call it the framework, but it really was just something that I used to get through, and that I use with my clients just to really help them to make progress in their business.
Wow. And as it stands today, you are 100% mom, and their biological mother, your daughter.
Yes.
They do not have a relationship, or?
They do actually. And one of the things that I think is unique about my situation is it's not like a one-time event. She's my daughter, my adult daughter. She's she's a biological birth mother of the children, and she does have a relationship. It's not an everyday relationship. It's as she shows me that she can keep her boundaries, that she is healthy and a positive influence in her life, then I give her that much contact and a chance to have a relationship with her children. But just as an example of yesterday, she has a little garden. She's a great gardener, and she's got this great little garden. And we went over to pick tomatoes. And so I took the children over there, and you know what? We were all very hopeful. We were having a great day. And she started treating me poorly. And I just said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to end the visit. And so we got in the car, we thanked her for the tomatoes, and we left. And it's like, I have to keep those kind of boundaries. If I allow her to start getting into her weirdness, then it's not good for the children. It's not good for me. It's not good for her. So it is, yeah, they definitely have a relationship, and it isn't always dicey like that. Sometimes the visits go great, you know, but that's kind of the dance that I do, or I facilitate for them. And so, yeah, it's a little dicey sometimes.
So do you find that finding techniques and mindset on how to maneuver your personal life has helped you in your business life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can't say enough about that. I feel like that, it's like probably everybody that wrote a story is if you come through something that's very big, you have to find something inside yourself that is going to get you through. And I feel like it definitely has done that for me, and it definitely has made me a better coach than I would have been if I didn't have that experience. And I relate well to parents. I'm a parent at heart, and I'm doing my second round, and hopefully get it right this time. But yeah, definitely it's affected it in a positive way.
Well, you know what? Life gets messy, and sometimes so doesn't business.
Yeah.
That is for sure. That is awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I had so many questions. I'm like, oh my God, I want to know this and I want to know that, because it is, you can tell it's a snapshot. You can tell there's many missing chapters in the book. And you could tell there was also a lot of lessons in that. So if someone wants to contact you, or someone wants to learn more about it or work with you, because you definitely have a lot of experience in life and business, how can they contact you?
Well, I have a website, ShawnHenson.com, and they can learn more about me there. I have a page of my story, so it goes a little bit more into my life and besides just the snapshot. They want to know about me. And as far as getting in contact or working with me, I would say the first step would be just to contact me. I have a Gmail. My Gmail account is Shawn Henson Coaching at gmail.com. Had to think there.
No. Can you do me a favor? And will you just, because everyone spells everything a little differently, will you just spell it out for the people who really want to get in touch with you?
Of course. So it's my name, Shawn Henson. So it's ShawnHenson, coaching, COACHING, at gmail.com.
Awesome. Awesome. And do you do group programs? Do you have one-to-ones? How do you work with your clientele?
Yeah, I do both. Currently, I have a mastermind that I'm working with 7 ladies, and that is a group. It's a lower cost entry level program. And then I do one-on-one as well. So if somebody wants to work with me one-on-one, I'm actually taking on a one-on-one client probably this week. So that is an option as well. But I also have, just so, if you email me, I do have an inspiration series I'd like to share, and it's my free gift. So if anybody would be interested in that, I take these pieces of this 5-step framework, and I will drip in your email an inspiration. It's a 1-minute inspiration each day with a little challenge that you can do in 60 seconds or less, and hopefully will brighten your day, as well as it will help give you energy and focus in moving your life forward. So
I love that. That sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed, as I do every time, talking with you.
Thank you.
It has been amazing to do this project with you. I am honored that I got to be the one who had the opportunity to interview you and really get to know your story even in more depth, because I think that you have so much to share.
Thank you so much, Jen.
You are very welcome. My pleasure.